that was nice. That was nice. Thank you. Thank you. That was great. Okay, as you know, we don't rehearse these morning talks. Somebody asked me a question out in the hallway, and I run with it, basically. And I'll be running with an idea today. So, let's begin by talking about Hongaku. You know, like what's in a name. Hongaku, as far as I understand the history and as far as others understand the history of that particular term, it had multiple meanings. Today, the most popular is the Hongaku Shisho thought of original Enlightenment thought. And that's the most popular way of expressing its meaning, is original enlightenment. We don't look at it quite that way. We went further back in history and looking at this word. Some of you know that I have a linguistic background, so I really get into this, both linguistics and history. So, and psychology. Whatever. I've been around a long time, so I've gotten into a lot of things. The word seems to be connected to the idea of the luminous mind. In the Polycanon, where the luminous mind is mentioned, it has a connotation of a place that one should be after practicing meditation. It's the result of meditation, and that seems to be the context, but that depends on whose translation you're looking at. It's found in the Samyutta Nikaya. And so the some translations make it sound like it itself is a stream of consciousness. Other translations make it sound like the result of intense meditation. Personally, I like to think of it as that stream of consciousness that we call in Mahayana the luminous mind, the mind of awareness, the stream of consciousness out of which our mundane minds arise. The Jodo part means pure land, and if you reach that luminous state, you have reached the pure land, because the mind is pure, therefore the environment that we see is pure. And show of hands, who's coming to this afternoon's workshop on the 3,000 realms? Wow. Almost all of you. Wow, terrific. It's going to be a packed house. We'll have to get another room. Because we got several people coming this afternoon, and this room won't hold us all. So, great. It means I have to get more cookies between now and 2 o'clock. Anyway, so we talk about this aspect of mind. And is it possible to be in that state 24/7? Yeah, it is. It's very possible. That's what the whole practice is about, is to get us to where we're in that state. If not 24/7, at least 18/7, huh? 18 hours out of the day, 7 days a week. Our waking hours. What happens when we're asleep? Most of us don't have control over that. But that's okay too. What stops us from reaching Hongaku state? Now, I've done some study on this. Yeah, 46 years worth. And did you ever think about the names you get, the Dharma names you get? Now, I've had several Dharma names. Every time I take precepts or with a different tradition, I wind up getting a new Dharma name. And which is cool. But Dharma names are aspirations. This is what we're going to grow into. And when I was in Vietnam, it was interesting because children there used to get, I don't know if they still do, I haven't been there in like 40 years, but children used to get names, and these names were what they were supposed to grow into. Some Native American tribes had the same tradition, or of naming their children. This is what you should be when you grow up. And the names were often quite imbued with mystical imagery. In other words, they were symbolic of mythology or something. And that's very, very cool. So Ogwi, who used to, anybody remember him? Or is that before your time? I thought so. Ogwi used to be the Jodo Shinshu head Chinkadero here in Chicago. He was at the Midwestern Buddhist Temple and at the Cincinnati Buddhist Temple. It's either Cincinnati or Cleveland, whichever one's closer to us. That's the one that he started at. Anyway, so he was in charge of two Jodo Shinshu temples. He's now in Los Angeles, where he's the archbishop. He's like the big head Chinkadero now. And Ogwi gave me this name. Mui was already my name. I was like born with that one. But which incidentally corresponds to the Japanese Mui, but it's actually of Mongolian origin. So he gave me the title Shaku Mui Shinshi, which meant Shaku, a disciple of the Buddha, Mui, uncreated or without fear, can mean either depending on which kanji are used. Shinshi, left his heart, mind in reality. Heart, mind in reality. So a disciple of the Buddha without fear, or a disciple of the Buddha who is uncreated, left his heart, mind in reality. That was something I had to grow into. And that name resonated with me, so I still use it today. Yushaku is also an old way in Japan. And presumably there's a Chinese cognate to that, which meant somebody who follows the teaching of the Buddha, not necessarily a monk, not necessarily a nun, not necessarily a priest, not necessarily taking any kind of higher ordination, but is taking precepts and is a disciple of the Buddha. And that is their entire life. That's what they do. A lot in Theravada, the expression of this is the anagarika, the left home one. If you're a lay person, not quite a monk, not quite a lay person. That was the designation of a shaku, and you find it in Zen at the World's Fair that we had here, what, 130 years ago or whatever it was. One of the people there at the World's Fair here in Chicago was had that name, Shaku, and then another name behind it, and he was the big draw for the Buddhist segment. Anyway, so that is a name that I am trying to grow into, being consistently a disciple of the Buddha, consistently leaving my heart, mind in reality, not running away with stuff, with my own bullshit. And I try not to. I really do. And it's a job. It is a real task not to. So the function of a person who is studying with any one of the Hongaku teachers, the Hongaku Jodo teachers, has the aspiration to reach that state of Hongaku, the luminous mind and enter into the Pure Land. This is why, one of the reasons why, this is the reason I like to give for the name. One of our priests that are affiliated with us is a Shingon priest. And he always, every time he sees me, he tells me, well, Hongaku Jodo is sort of is repetitious, it's redundant, because if you're at Hongaku, of course you're in the Pure Land. Well, yes, that's true. But it's not redundant because they're two separate things. One deals with the inner self, and one deals with the exteriors. Hongaku with the inside, Jodo with the outside. How we perceive our environment. And what stops us from perceiving our environment in a efficacious way are the vibe-clinging aggregates. Now, last week, David asked a question about should he adhere to a lineage? Would that help him at this point? Should he seek ordination, take precepts, and study a particular lineage at this time? And I responded to that in regards to his situation and my experience with it. And I recommended that at this point, it's probably not an important thing. Well, that video got a hell of a lot of hits within 24 hours. And it was interesting to me, it got so many hits. And there was a lot of response on one of the forums online. That was pointed out to me by Sensei Moiran in Puerto Rico, that, wow, look at this. And it was they did not respond, the forum did not respond to the video. They responded to me personally and my experience, as if somehow my experience was faulty. Any experience you have is real at the time that you're having it. When you remember that experience is also real. Not the experience that you're remembering, but the memory of having an experience. The memory itself becomes reality. In the old Mork and Mindy show from the late 60s, early 70s, Robin Williams stars as an alien who comes to this planet. It's a comedy. Pam Dauber was Mindy, and surprised I still remember that. Considering my age, why would I not remember Pam Dauber? But Mork makes an interesting comment in one of the episodes. Reality, wow, what a concept. And reality is a concept. That's all it is. Truth is just an idea. How we see reality for each one of us is an opinion. It's not necessarily real. It is not real because we're filtering it through our karma, we're filtering it through the aggregates, we're filtering it through our papancas, our proliferation of thought. And then we run away with things that are not necessarily real or true in the ultimate sense of the word. Let me read you a little bit from The Essentials of Buddhism, great book, by Venerable Pettagama Ganarama, PhD. Okay, there are 5 aggregates of grasping. As long as we're grasping at these elements, we're going to be stuck in samsara. We're going to have proliferation of thought. We're going to have skewed images of what's going on. Reality is going to maintain to be an opinion, not real. But the experience we're having is real. And that's going to affect our karma. Because as the product of every decision, every thought we have ever had, that's all we are, is the sum total of those decisions and thoughts. When we think, we're adding to the karma, and that is pushing us into heaven or hell, or any place in between. And we're totally unaware of it, the meaning of ignorance, from the word avidya, not seeing, to be blind. So we're blind to the fact that we're doing this. And then we do this and we go, aha, I have had a thought, therefore I think I will verbalize that thought, and voila! We got 900 million people pissed off at us. And a few applauding. Remember, no one is beyond blame. No one does not become praised. At least once. And usually by the same people. The same people that are praising you today are blaming you tomorrow. The people that are in love with you today might hate you tomorrow. Your friends become your enemies and then your friends again. Everything's constantly shifting. So we're never beyond praise or blame. Why is that? Because we and they are clinging to the 5 aggregates as if they were real. They are real, in a sense that they are affecting us. You can be affected by an illusion. The internet is an illusion. There's not anything really happening on that screen. Television, there's nothing happening on the screen except images and some sound waves, and they come in here and here. We witness them up here, we transform them, and we cannot see clearly. And we are affected by these imaginary things that are happening on TV. Ever watch a movie or a show and start crying because it's so touching? Nothing real happened, but we're affected anyway. Because that's what we do. We become affected by externalities, we internalize them, and it becomes part of our karma. So we have the clinging aggregate of materiality. Stuff out there. We start clinging to feeling, sensation. And remember, we've only got 3. We've got feeling of pleasant, we got the feeling of unpleasant, and we have neutral feeling. Now, some Buddhist masters will disagree because they have a psychological background and they say that these are just 3 headings. Look closely. They're not 3 headings. There aren't other feelings, and by feelings we mean emotion. Buddha never talked about emotion, per se. Sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. What happens then is we have a whole complex bunches of thoughts happening while we're feeling pleasant feelings, and we have emotions that inspire happiness, joy, hope, faith, etc. If it's an unpleasant feeling, wow, then hate arises, and anger arises, and fear arises, and sadness arises. And they're just thoughts. Thoughts based upon a sensation. And thanks to the German and English romantics of the 18th and 19th century, that idea that emotions are somehow separate from intellect and represent our true self, our true soul, is embedded in our culture. It's a lie. It's untrue. And anyone who looks at these things rationally will see that that is an untrue assumption. Grasping a perception. We grasp at patterns that we see, and we can only see patterns we already know. We cannot recognize a pattern we have not experienced. So there might be spacemen or somebody from another dimension sitting right next to you. You wouldn't know because you don't recognize that pattern. You've never seen it before. Dream researchers, actual scientists, not dream interpreters, but actual scientists who study dreams tell us that every face we see in a dream is somebody we've already seen. Every face you have ever seen is cataloged somewhere amongst the cells of the brain, and when you dream, it pulls one up. So you think you're dreaming of somebody you've never seen before, but you have. You may have just passed them on the street a few months ago. But you recognize the face, it caught your attention, now it's cataloged forever. Well, this means that everything we do, everything we think, every unmindful act that we do is cataloged somewhere and becomes internalized as part of our karma. Then comes mental formation. We grasp to those. Oh, Lord, how we grasp to our fabrications. This is karma itself in the making. We hold on to what it is we built. We are the creator God. So we create things in our mind, project them outward, and say, hey, this is reality. And then there is consciousness which pulls all this together and says, aha, there is an experience, here is an experiencer. And nothing can be further from the truth. Because we are both the experience and the experiencer. At the same time, neither nor. So what Venerable Padagama has said was, in other words, holding on to the 5 constituent factors of empiric individuality, whether they are internal or external, cause suffering. By the 5 terms, the aspects of materiality or corporeality, wow, what a word, sensation, perception, connotation, and cognition are to be understood. In fact, the classification of the 5 aggregates covers the entire phenomenal existence. There is nothing out there except those 5 aggregates. If you want to, you can check out my video, The Way It Is. It's very short, about 9 minutes, and it explains this to a certain extent. So what happens? We have this cognition arising that it is this way or that way. And the mind automatically tries to reinforce it with papancas. It tries to stabilize, rationalize, defend, project, and enforce whatever it is it thinks it sees, it thinks it hears. And so the Papancas started rising. The proliferation of thought is just incredible until we were so far removed from reality, we're making absurd statements and judgments and fostering conceptions that have no basis in fact whatsoever. So if someone foices these things onto you, what do? It's their reality in this moment. And they have a right to that reality. They have a right to that reality in as much as it is fostered by causes and supported by conditions over which they have no control. And why do they not have any control? Because they're not practicing. They're not practicing. They couldn't be practicing, or else they wouldn't be making these statements based on what they perceive are facts. Because they're running away with their papancas. Papancas are not facts. And just because thoughts are arising in your mind, you can't take them seriously. They're real in that moment, just like the face of a movie actor or actress is real when it's on the screen and you're experiencing it, but then it becomes something else, and it's no longer real. But the karma that you have created is real. So the more we bitch, whine, and moan about something that is the product of our papancas, the more negative karma we are creating in the landscape of our mind. The further we move away from the Pure Land, the farther removed we are from Hongaku, the luminous mind. And when this happens, do we automatically sit and do shamatha vipassana meditation, also known as shikuan or shikan in Japan? Do we do that? No. We try to find support for our views, for our feeling. We try to find rationale and validation for our clinging. We're not very bright sometimes. Sometimes we're incredibly intelligent, but not often. Sometimes we're this close to being a Buddha, and then we lose it, and we throw ourselves into hell. And then who rescues us then? Well, we do. This is the whole Ksitigarbha Jizo myth. We have to arise, become a bodhisattva, and save ourselves. So we have these three choices of karma that we're constantly creating. Black karma, also called bad karma. Prefer the word unskillful. White karma. Going to get an email on that one. Black and white karma, good and bad, or bad and good, in that order. White karma, which is skillful, we call it good karma. And then we have neutral karma, which is strictly functional. At the Young Center, where I presented, what was it, last Friday? Yeah, just last Friday. One of the psychoanalysts there said, well, you know, I believe that all karma is simply neutral. You can have good or bad effects for us, but you know, all karma is neutral. Not so. Certain karmas are definitely always unskillful. Anger, hate, the sense of being offended, the sense of being right, the sense of being of indignation. These are all automatically bad karmas. They're all unskillful. Compassion, love, the desire to awaken, sympathy can, sometimes it can't, be skillful. The only person that has neutral karma constantly, and that's termed functional karma, is an arhat, who does not create good karma or bad karma. It's just functional. They might do some pretty amazingly compassionate and wise things, but they're not looking at themselves and saying, I'm compassionate and bloody wise. They don't do that. That's why their karma is functional. And with that, I think I will close, because if I don't, somebody's going to have a question. I'll respond to it, and then I'll get more hate mail. So I'm going to close off for now. I'll ring the bell. And thank you.